Hello there! In this course, I'm going to teach you how to create 2D animations from start to finish. All of the process you will see and learn from will be done using completely free programs such as Krita and DaVinci Resolve. To get used to the brush tool, let's start with some simple drawings. I will be tracing back some of the sketches I have done while designing one of the main characters for this course, the pigeon character. And yes, I'm tracing back the lines because I didn't record myself doing the sketches, so bear with me. There are some questions we can answer to help us design our characters while we watch this. One of them is why? Why your character needs to exist? For me, the answer is simple. I need to come up with a simple character design to animate for this course. I need to make him or her simple to draw so everyone watching this will be able to follow along. For you, the answer could be as simple as, let's say, you have a story to tell and this character is part of your story. Or you have already designed your character, so now you want to animate it. Whatever is the case, answering a simple question like this can give you a direction to start. Okay, here's another question. What's the character's personality? And here I'm just gonna briefly mention shape theory. Even if you don't know much about the personality of your character, don't worry. I didn't know as well when I was designing this pigeon. Once my design was final, I was able to come up with his personality. In the meantime, I just wanted to make a cute and lovable character. Even with this simple idea of cute and lovable was enough for me to experiment with the shapes. I'm not going to go deep into shape theory. There's plenty out there that you can read about. For starters, we can know this. Round shapes communicate that they are friendly and affable, while triangular and point shapes can be a bit more aggressive and unpredictable. And square shapes represent grounding and stubbornness. Is this enough for us to design our characters though? Well, it kind of depends. We can use the shapes as guidelines and combine them with one another. Not every round-looking character needs to be good sometimes. Having this in mind, let's leave for now the pigeon character aside and take a look at our second character, which is the granny. For my story, I will need two characters that will interact with one another. When I started designing the granny character, I made a bunch of different sketches. I was trying to use different ideas. I knew I wanted to make the granny to be a little bit stubborn but friendly, yet a little bit cocky. After I did the 3 sketches, I remember about my great-grandma, how she was this little sweet granny walking around with her cane and going to the park to eat ice cream on the benches. With this image in mind, I came up with this final design of a little modern grandma with big headphones. Her whole body is like a big bean. She has thin pointy legs. As I was doing the granny design, I was looking at other character design ideas until I saw this bean shape and I knew exactly how I wanted my little granny to look like. So keep this in mind. Looking for inspiration is also a good idea when designing your characters. And having a example as my personal story, you can also base your characters on people you know, or you can take some of the characteristics from other people and apply them to your characters. So here's another question. What's the backstory of your character? If you're still struggling to design your original character, you can try writing a few sentences about their backstory. Before I finished the pigeon character, I did add some baggy eyes. Once I drew them, I said to myself, yeah, he's tired after all the coffee and the jumping around the park benches. He is definitely hyperactive and he likes to push his beak into people's businesses all the time. That's how I came up with this backstory, by just adding a baggy eyes to my character. For the granny, the backstory is this. She knows her new high-tech tools, as you can tell. She likes to be informed all the time, so she never goes anywhere without her headphones and her tablet, so she can Google the latest news. And the internet at her place gets crowded, so she goes around the public spaces to steal the Wi-Fi, if she finds some. And that's how I came up with this backstory. I didn't know that before until I added a bunch of elements to my characters and the backstory wrote itself. Okay, let's talk about color theory for a second. If you are struggling with colors to use for your characters, I will show you why I chose the colors for the pigeon and the granny. So maybe you can get inspired. For the pigeon, I decided to use the typical pigeon colors. Just grab a picture of a pigeon and you're done. No, I'm joking. Don't worry, I will elaborate. In the beginning of this, I wanted for us to bring the color wheel, aka it's called the advanced color selector. When we pick colors, we can clearly see which colors are opposite on the wheel and which are in close proximity. By holding control on your keyboard, you can activate the color picker. So if you pick the pigeon colors, we will see it's a gray, blue on the wheel, and the eyes are dark purple, which again on the color wheel is close to the blue color. The only color that's far from these two is the color of the beak, the yellow color, and it's opposite on the wheel. It's a good complementary color to the blue. So when we pick colors, it's good to look at the wheel and see which colors are close to each other and which are opposite. The easiest way I found out is when I choose one main color and pick one or two close colors to that main color, and for good contrast I choose an opposite color to my main color, so we have a nice contrast. With the granny character, I had a different approach. I wanted to present her as a grounded character but yet playful, so when I was choosing the colors, I was looking at the green and brown colors as they are presented to be, they represent grounding and relaxing, colors that you can find in nature. But when you look at her headscarf and the headphones, you will see they are much brighter and fun colors, right? So contrasting the clothes colors that way. Of course, it's up to you which colors you want to use, so good luck and have fun. Once you have designed your characters, it's good to take some time and draw the character sheet. The idea is to draw your characters from every possible angle, so once you start animating them, you can use your sheet for reference. It will make your animating process much easier. Also, if you're working with other people, it's important to have this character sheet, since there you will find the color information and it's the character's details. For the bird character, I did the 3/4 view, front view, back view, and profile view. While for the granny character, I only did a profile view since she won't be animated much in the different poses, while the pigeon will have more dynamic movements. Of course, this can change based on the scene I will be animating. But for now, these character sheets are enough. Before we jump into animating our main scene with the two characters we have, I want for us to do a small warm-up animation with the pigeon. Since the shape of the character is simple, he's pretty much a circle, right? A sphere. So let's animate him trying to fly from the ground up. Now, I did a very rough animation only by using the traced shape of the character, and as you can see, I haven't named my layers on the left. When we do our main scene, we will be a bit more organized. For now, if we look at the layers, the lines on the ground, the paint layer 1 is the rough animation, and on paint layer 2, I will be animating the proper lines of the character by adding the face, the beak, the wings, and so on. The first frame is static. Our bird is standing still, aka this is our staging. Before he jumps, we need to signal that by adding an anticipation pose. Think about when you watch the Olympics and observe when they do the activities like jumping, running, and throwing stuff. For example, even when you have to jump, first you have to go backwards, right? Running, walking, most activities we do, even without thinking, there is a moment of anticipation to all of them. When you wait to cross the street and the light goes green, from a still position, first thing you do is to go backwards and then forward with your first step. In our case, with the bird, we are going to squish him a little bit, and we will be using the famous 12 principles of animation. You don't have to know all of them by heart, but knowing how to use them can enhance your animation to be smooth and alive. The first principle is squash and stretch. Right now, we're squishing our little character to create the illusion of anticipation. On the next frame, instead of having him in the air, we are going to apply the stretch principle. We are stretching our character before he gets in the position of flying. These principles can work not only for cartoon characters, but they are used even for human characters. Some people use squash and stretch when they don't want to draw too many in-betweens. And if you're asking yourself what are in-betweens, they are drawings in between the keyframes, or we also can call them in between the main drawings. So our stretch example is an in-between until we get to our main pose of the character to be in the air. There's no rule how many in-betweens you need to do, as long as you achieve the desired movement for your animations. Once your character is in the air, flying up and down, at some point we need to land him on the ground. And how are we going to do that? Well, gravity, yes. In our scene we will have gravity, but how are we going to show that? This next frame is a little bit exaggerated. His eyes are stretched alongside with his head. This is again an example of squash and stretch. In this case, we're stretching the whole body as we did earlier, but this time we can even draw a feather falling from him and add a little despair in his eyes. This frame is visible for 4 frames. Once he hits the ground, we again get another extreme frame. He's almost squashed like a pancake. Trying to animate simple characters like this one can help us improve and break away the boring shapes by drawing exaggerated body shapes, eyes, and etc. This creates the illusion of seamless repeated animation. It starts and ends in the same position, and we get something like this. Of course, you can add more in-betweens to your animation, and maybe you can add the flying feather that flies away from him. I didn't do that because I wanted just to showcase the main principles, but if you do, you can do yours and make it better. Let's get to the fun part, the animation. First, we need to have a scene to animate, right? Well, let's come up with a scene then. For this class, I have created 2 characters as you just witnessed. You can use them if you want to follow along or make your own characters. First, we need to come up with a story. You can write down as a script if you want to, or if you're like me, you can do a short storyboard. This storyboard I did on stream. If you want, you can watch the full version on my channel. But I don't want to waste time here, so in short, let's first say what is a storyboard and how you can come up with one to use for your own animations. A storyboard is a series of illustrations or drawings that show key events in a story. If we follow our storyboard, we will see the story unfolding in front of our eyes. Remember this, you don't need to be extra detailed with your drawings when doing your storyboards. And that's why I chose to draw these shapes to represent the granny character as a big cube and the pigeon character as a small sphere. If you need to present your storyboards in front of a client, then it's good to clean them up and show the storyboard with better drawings. I will leave a template for storyboard you can use, but you can also make your own in Krita by using the shape tools. Let's animate the first scene in our storyboard. The introduction. We have a character sitting on a bench with a camera panning from the left to the right, and then another character enters the scene. I start out a new file with these dimensions, and then I open my storyboard as well, from which I copy the area I will be animating and paste it on my scene where I will be animating. I'm just using my right button on the mouse to copy the selection, and then again with the right button to paste it in the other file I have. As you are noticing, I'm not very detailed and technical with my explanation in Krita since this is basic stuff. If you are struggling with any commands so far, there will be a shortcut sheet to look up. If you still can't find the answer, please feel free to ask. This course is for people who already know how to navigate in Krita. Anyway, now we have our scene from the storyboard, so it's time to lower the opacity and create a new layer on which first we're gonna draw our bench, which is part of our background. Krita has a line tool you can use. It will take the size of the current brush you're using, so you can change the brush and then the line itself will change. You can increase the brush size so the line will increase, or if you decrease, then the line will decrease. Once our bench is done, I will lock that layer and lower the opacity again. Again, I do this so I don't draw on top of that layer. So I can see and create my granny layer on top. I will be using single layers for both my characters. So, with the granny, I want to make her head to bop, going back and forward, to the sound of the music coming from her headphones. So once I did my rough sketch, I will duplicate the first frame, and then I will take the selection tool to select only her head, and move it back and forwards. Once I'm happy with the movement, I will copy the two frames, and not to be confused which frame goes first, I will change the color to the second frame. So to go to the next potential frame, we press the arrow there. So Krita will show us where should be the next keyframe. When you hold Control on your keyboard, you can select multiple keyframes. Once you have selected them, you can clone these frames. Make sure you are pressing Alt on your keyboard and move them around your timeline. I will clone my keyframes a couple of times so it will create this looping effect of the head, and I'll be using this multiple times across this animation. Okay, after the granny is done, I'm making a new layer for the little pigeon. The open window on the left is a separate program called PureRef. It allows you to have your reference images on your screen. You can download that for free, so don't worry, I will make sure to leave links to all the programs I use in this course. So, let's get back to the animatics. I have my character sheet open so I can replicate the positions of my character. All I'm doing is drawing the positions, and I'm using the transform tool to move him around. Remember, at this stage, we're not looking for smooth movement, but a simple movement just to use it later as a guideline, so we can see the timing once we get back to do the earth animations and then the cleanups. Yes, frame by frame animations have structures, and sometimes it can be a bit tedious to go through them, but the end result is definitely worth it. Okay, we are going to do our rough animations. In this stage, we are going to use the animatics we have done before, and on top of them, we can do our rough pass of our animations. I'm going to do the pigeon first, since it's the character with the most movement in the scene. Make sure once you create a new layer to double click and rename it. It's important to keep things organized, since we are going to end up with a lot of layers, and if we want to make corrections down the line, it's going to be impossible to find the right layer. I will bring back my reference program and I will open the character sheet for the pigeon. I need to see the body positions of the bird so I can redraw them correctly. Remember, it's important to keep using your references in order for you to have better animations, better drawings, and everything to stay consistent. Once I have my new layer for the pigeon, I'm going to lower down the opacity of the animatic layer, and I will try to add in-betweens to make the movement smoother on my rough animation layer. I think it's important to mention, if you need to draw symmetrical drawings, in this case there's this option you can turn on in Krita, which is called the horizontal mirror tool, and next to it is the vertical mirror tool. Basically, one of them you can mirror vertically and the other horizontally. It gives you a line you can position anywhere on your canvas and draw symmetrical. Obviously, not the whole body of the bird is symmetrical. Well, actually, the bird's body is symmetrical, but let's say the eyes and the beak, I have to turn off the symmetry tool and I have to draw them separately. I have to delete some of the lines that I did and draw them on top, because then again, the body-ish is symmetrical, but then once we do the tail or the eyes and the beak and the hair, we need to turn off the symmetry. It's easier and less stressful to get the perfect drawing that way. Also, remember, we are doing rough animations right now, so don't aim for perfect lines. We just need to put down the movement to feel smooth. Later, we are going again on a new layer to refine the drawings and finalize our line work. But that's later. Right now, we are just doing some rough animation just to get the movement right. As you will see, some of the in-betweens are copies and I just transform them to fit. When I'm trying to change the view of the character, I'm drawing a new drawing to fit. You don't have to redraw every single frame. You can reuse some of them if the position of the character is the same. Work smart and not hard. I did spend a lot of time on this turnaround of the character. Well, technically it's not a turnaround, but it needs to turn from profile view to back view. And we need to draw a bunch of drawings in between to make it smoother. Once I spent some time on it, I play the animation. It was smooth, but when I go through each individual frame, I think this drawing is a little bit off. You can see the tail is back, the beak, it might be a little bit big, and the hair, well, I would call this the hair, the haircut. It's a little bit weird looking drawing, so I might redo this one. Another way for you to see if your drawing looks good, it's symmetrical enough, is to use the key on your keyboard M. It will flip your canvas. That way, once your image gets flipped, you can see if you have made mistakes or not. This is like a note technique they used to do back in the days when they didn't have computers to use for animation. Most illustrators and animators will have a small mirror on their desks, and they will use that mirror to point at their drawings and see the mirror image, so that way they will see if they need to make any corrections or not. Today we can simply do that by pressing M on our keyboard, especially in Krita, and you can turn back again the canvas to normal by pressing M again. When you do close-to-close animation, it's easier to keep your drawings consistent, but sometimes it's easier to miss out and have some of the shapes to be bigger or smaller. I can see once the bird's on the bench, it seems to be a bit smaller than when it was on the ground. The way I spotted this was when I was looking at my animatic layer and my rough animation layer. You can clearly see there's difference in size. The other way to make sure your animations stay consistent is to have a copy of your character or drawing on a separate layer, and that way you can constantly reference using it as a reference on top of the current frame that you're working to make sure the proportions are right. That way your character or what animation you're doing can be more consistent. As we progress with our little animation, you'll see how much I try to reuse some of the positions I have already made, as the pigeon is trying to jump on the bench. I'm basically mirroring the poses I have already created on the first jump to make the second one. Once we're happy with the movement, later we can redraw the poses, and of course if we have to, and we can clean them up. But for now, I just want to save some time and finish this as soon as possible. When you're doing any 2D animation, especially frame by frame animation, if you don't have the patience, your work can be frustrating and the end result will be suffering from a lot of imperfections. I'm a great example of how not to be, so don't be like me. Anyway, I will show you the difference between a clone frame and a copy frame function in Krita, because this is important. If we have two clone frames, for example, and we decide to make a change to one of them, that change will be applied to all of the clone frames. While if we have two or more copy frames, duplicated frames, let's say, and we decide to make a change on one of the frames, that change will only apply to that specific frame we have made the change on. As I said before, you can multi-select the frames on your animation timeline by holding Ctrl to select individual frames, or you can press Shift to select multiple frames in a row. Once you have selected your desired frames, you can press the right button on your mouse and you will see the options. I use shortcuts, but if you are new to this and don't want to use shortcuts, don't worry. The granny character is more static when it comes to animating her. There's not much movement happening. So the way I'm going to approach this, I'm going to draw every limb of the character on a separate layer. The head will be on a separate layer. I will animate the eyes on a separate layer as well. My idea here is this: since her head will only move back and forwards and she will blink once in a while, I want to make the animations for the mouth, the eyes, and let's color everything and make it into a single layer so I can animate that layer. Of course, this type of approach can be destructive since we might need later to make some changes, let's say to the colors, or maybe we need to change the timing of the animation. So before merging the layers, because we can do that, by the way, either by holding Control or Shift and pressing the right button and choosing the option that you need. There is a shortcut for that as well, by the way. Let's select the layers for the head and right button and press, we can either press Ctrl and G or right button and make them into a group. You can then copy that group and merge the copy of the group together. So the merged layers, the merged group will be the layers that will get into one layer that we want to use. And that way you're gonna have a copy of the rest of the layers that they're not ruined in a way. They are individually placed. Let's say the colors are on a different layer, the eyes are on a different layer, and we can make them into a group, so we don't touch that group, but we will have individual layer with the copy of that group. So with that in mind, I will be animating the grammar movement in DaVinci Resolve. First, I will try to swing the legs by using train animation in Krita. How to do that though? Select the layer you want to animate. In this case, that will be the leg, one of the legs, let's say. Press the right button on your mouse and go to Add, and from there, press Add Transform Mask. Just make a small note here, this function in Krita to create motion twinning is pretty unstable, so I don't really recommend using it. If you want to make smooth movements, then just choose a different program. Let's say you make your frame by frame animation section of the whole thing, and you can export it as an image sequence and import it in a video editing program, and from there to pick the element that you need to be animated. Anyway, I did try my luck here, and I made the swing of both the legs with the animation curves, because we can't add any keyframes from the animation timeline, but we can add keyframes to our transform layer that we added on the animation curves. It's a bit tricky to use, but as you will see what I'm doing here. So again, I don't really recommend it, but you can try. It may crash, so keep that in mind. Anyway, the granny's body and bench I will render together as a image sequence. Make sure you remove your background layer to not be visible when you're rendering like this. And I will import them in the DaVinci Resolve later. And all together I will animate everything together, right? So her head animation, also the blinking of the eyes, will be rendered as a separate image sequence, and later we're gonna combine everything, we're gonna compose everything in the DaVinci Resolve alongside with the pigeon. Coloring. Okay, let's color our animation. More specifically, that will be the pigeon animation. The way I color my frame-by-frame animations in Krita is by simply duplicating the animation layer, and obviously renaming that layer. It will be the layer beneath, not the top one. And I did not do that here. That's bad. Don't be like me. Make sure you name your layers, and life will be easier. Probably this will be a great quote by some sage somewhere. I guess, yeah, just name your layers. We are going to use the fill tool, which is over there, and we will color our drawings that we have duplicated the layer of. Make sure you don't have gaps on your drawings. And at first of all, I thought I would go and clean up my animation, but since I'm trying to finish this as soon as possible, I would do it the sloppy way. But you definitely clean up your animations, like your drawings. Make a new layer, do proper lines. Even though when I look at my lines, they're clean, they're like clean-ish. There are some poses, some drawings where I need to redo them, but they're like singular. So I will use the fill tool to do that, to fill up my drawings, and the ones that I need to redo I will just simply redo, but they're like individuals. For example, when the bird falls on the tablet on the granny, and then when it grows there's another frame where I have scribbled lines, and when you have scribbled lines, that's not ideal, because then the fill tool will not do the best job. Then you have to go in and clean again. And yeah, make sure you have proper clean lines on your drawings, and then you can duplicate them and color them. That's the fastest way I found out to color your animation in Krita specifically. And the way I have decided to pick the colors, I have my concept art. I imported that, and I have it as a separate layer, and I just I minimize it a little bit, but not too much, just enough to be able to hit control on my keyboard, pick the color I need, and then color the character. It's just faster that way, and I did that for the granny as well. Have your reference on your canvas as a separate layer, and you can reveal it whenever you need it, and you can hide it, because obviously you don't need to have it when you render your animation, because it will be recorded on your screen, and that's not, you don't need it there, right? So yeah, that's one of the ways I color my animations, and that will take some time, so I might speed up this for you, and hope you enjoy. And then again, name your layers, do your cleanup drawings with proper lines, and life will be easier, as they say. Once we have colored our pigeon animation, it's time to render it as image sequence, as the way we did with the granny. Make sure you are organized and create separate folders for each of the animations you have. I have a folder only for the granny's head animation, a folder for her body with the bench, and now I'm going to make a folder for the pigeon. Go to render animation, and on image location where it says export as image sequence, choose where to save it. Make a new folder only for the pigeon animation. There's no need to export this into a video. Also, as before, make sure you have hidden your background and only the pigeon is visible before rendering. We need our images to be PNGs with no background. The picture is off. Finally, we are at our final step, the composing. I will be using the picture resolve since it's a free video editing program and you have plenty of effects and options to work with. This is the picture resolve. On the bottom you will see 7 icons. We are going to select the third one, which is the editing. Now we are in the editing space of the program and we are going to drag our animations into the media pool on the left. Open your folders and select the first image, hold shift and scroll down until you select the last image so we can import the full sequence together. I will do this for the granny, for the pigeon and the head of the granny. If you hover on top of that clip, by the way, you will see the animation playing. Let's do this for the other two and find a nice background image as well to import again into the media pool section over there. Now we have everything, right? It's time to put it into the timeline. If you don't see your clips there, make sure to zoom in from that scale over there. Or there's a shortcut while you can hold Alt on your keyboard and scroll with the middle button of your mouse. I will be using this short combination quite a lot, so it makes my work faster that way. After we have imported all of our animations and the background, it's time to sync the granny head movements to the bird. Before we go there, here are some shortcuts I'm using. If you press the middle button of the mouse, you can move around the timeline. Also, there's a shortcut for the cut tool in the picture resolve, which is B. It's that small eraser icon over there. If you want to use the arrow key to move instead of cut stub, press A, which is that icon over there. To move your marker with one frame at a time, you can press your arrow keys on the keyboard. I'm moving my marker on the timeline to find the start of the bird animation to be accurate, and once I find it, I will click the granny's head animation from there and move it to the position I need. I know this is a weird sentence to say, but that's what we're doing here. We're cutting heads, not literally, of course. The idea is to time the head movement and the bird movement together, and it takes a little bit of time, but that's the way I chose to do it, because in Krita that might have resulted into a little bit of inconvenience for me, especially when the head has eye blinking and such extra animations there. Finally, once we're happy with the whole animation, we can add a adjustment layer. If you don't see your effects on the left, you can press on the top left corner on the text where it says effects and they will appear. I am adding adjustment clip, which I will zoom in and out, and I'll try to make some sort of movement, but before that I will just move the granny animation with the bench and the head, so it will create this illusion of camera panning from the right of the screen. Anyway, if we're happy with our animation, simply we can finally render it. Of course, you can add other effects as glow effects and such, but right now we want to render this because we're happy with how it looks. The way we render our finished clip in the picture resolve is by going to that icon that looks like a rocket. Press it and you will be in a different window where you can choose your settings for exporting your final video. These are my settings that I'm using. Make sure you name your video and choose the video location for that video. After all is said and done, the only thing that we can do is press render. In order to press render though, we need to add our clip to the render queue, which is from that button over there. Once that's done, you simply can press render. And depending how long your clip is, it will take some time. And finally, we can witness our amazing animation. Enjoy. Okay, for your final assignment, you can try to animate one of the scenes from our storyboard. If you don't, that's completely fine. I hope this class was helpful to you. Make sure you share your animations with the rest of us. And if you have any questions, please do leave them, and I will be happy to answer them as much as I can. And maybe someone else can also answer them. If you have any troubles or you have any suggestions, make sure you leave that, share it with me, and I would love to hear about it. Thank you, and I hope you enjoy animating with Krita.